So I am correct. So the YouTube chat is here. So I don't have to like stare back and forth. I do need to make sure that all of the and I think we are live now. Doesn't matter. We're here. Everybody will see it in like 5 seconds anyway. It's good that all of this is like it's good that I can see like all of this, so that's pretty cool.
So, Bob, in your role as host and producer, are you going to be hitting the dump button every time I start to curse too much, or is that do I have to self-regulate here?
You're gonna have to self-regulate. You're on your own, man. Hey, coach, how are you?
Hey Bob, doing good, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. I like I was telling Jim, I'm like doing some major air traffic control things going on because I've got like trying to control the chat, control the questions, and then make sure everybody's got everything, make sure everything is in proper order.
Yeah,
So,
there you go.
the whole herding cats thing.
I
So,
do it every day.
so I believe we are live, and I think we just pulled up and anybody who happens to be in the chat, let us know you can see us. That would be great. Because Will, I know you're here. Or John or somebody, I don't know. But we are live, or at least should be live. We're doing this through the magic of Zoom. So myself and Jim Sarah are here, and uh, Bart Lundy is joining us here in this first part of this preseason extravaganza. Coach, again, thank you very much for joining us. Yeah, I feel like we're making this an annual habit, which is awesome, by the way.
No, I love being on. I appreciate the invitation and it's almost hoops time.
Yes, I didn't realize where we were at here because it was like it's so close. So, um, all right. So let me go ahead and start questioning. So Milwaukee has been releasing the non-conference schedule, kind of one social media post at a time. I gotta ask, who's the guy putting together those sweet graphics?
Oh, we got Rachel in our office. She's fantastic. She is. We kind of came up with a plan. You know, it's a trend now in college basketball. So we had a golf tournament yesterday, and we did a presentation after the tournament and used all our graphics. And she was in the back, so she got a little recognition for it. So they're really good. They're really good.
Nice.
Yeah, I actually thought those graphics were awesome. I sent them to somebody at Green Bay the first time I saw the Hampton one with the Panthers. I was like, this thing is strong, and so I really love that. And but speaking of your scheduling, Coach Lundy, I noticed this year, based on what I've been able to find on message boards and other places, it looks like you only have about one non-D1 game and three high major games on your schedule in the non-conference, which seems like a little bit of a departure for the schedule. So kind of walk us through, like when you're putting your schedule together, what are you looking for year to year for the team that you have, and especially for the team that you have this year?
Yeah, I'd like to schedule all games that we are at home and we are favored, but that's not the not the reality. The league has a scheduling mandate, and we try our best to follow that. We were able to add Texas Tech there at the end, which maybe threw it the other way. I'm getting into Greg Campy territory now. But it's there are economic forces that play that weren't in play. Maybe when I first got here, that's just reality. There are more bills to pay. That's a part of it. I do think that when I first got here, we needed two. I don't know. I think we played two nons. We played two nons all 3 years, but part of that was we had trouble getting games. The games were a little easier to get this year for whatever reason, and we are. I don't know exactly what our RPI ended up at, or our net, but we're right in that range where we're a little more attractive to some people and less attractive to some of the high majors. Texas Tech was desperate at the end, and so that's a pretty good payday. I've known Grant forever. We kind of had the same trajectory, and he went a little higher than I did. But D2 guys, have kind of grinded out lower levels, and so I'm sure he's got a top 5 team. He's going to want to kill us. So I don't know if it's a good game or not. We've got Indiana and Texas Tech that week, but we go on the road and see what we can do. But I like the schedule. I like the challenge, and I think we've got a team that is resilient enough, experienced enough to handle it.
All right. Well, I wanted to talk about one of those non-conference opponents, and it's going down. You're going down to Madison to play Wisconsin, and I know a lot of Panther fans been waiting for another shot at the Badgers. While it's only one game in the long season, what do you think this game on the schedule means to both your team and the fans?
Well, I think any time that we, playing Green Bay is awesome every year, and but boy, we've tried hard to get the Badgers and Marquette to play, and have not been successful. So I'm really thankful and grateful to Greg Gard, because he's the one that pulled the trigger on it. Now this is the way this happens. We we wanted the game no matter what, so we play Fort Wayne on the 29th at home, and then we play the Badgers on the 30th. But basically, the call came in, and we'll definitely play. Okay, what's the date? And we just said yes. And then 2 days later, we got to be at Wright State. So not optimal in the flow of the the way you'd want conference to start out second semester. But we got the Badgers, and it's good. It's good in-state stuff. I wish there was. We've talked Green Bay. We've talked with Green Bay about these games at the Fiserv. We're going to play at the Fiserv. It's not announced yet. I'm not supposed to say anything, but watch tomorrow. We have our last game will be announced tomorrow. But if we could get those games in Fiserv, and somehow we could get even Green Bay playing and Milwaukee playing at the same time as the Badgers and Marquette, anything to make the basketball in the state as good as it can be, as appealing to the fans as it could be. We have 200,000 graduates and 100,000 in this area, so they're pretty happy we're playing the Badgers.
I don't know how we can censor out that last part, so I guess we just got to go roll with it.
Yeah, they knew I'd screw it up, so no big deal.
Hey, you kept the name a secret, and it's kind of out there for like the hardcore fans that operate in the message board world and Twitter world that may or may not have been at your golf outing yesterday. It looked, by the way, like you had a great crowd at the golf outing, so congratulations on that. Coach Lundy, one of the questions I had for you, just about your style of basketball. I love the terminology that you use, tilt the floor, I believe is, if I have that right.
Yeah.
That's perfect, because even an idiot like me can understand what that means, and as I'm getting older, that uphill part's getting a lot harder. So I really love that terminology. But you're, and I don't want to sound ageist, but you're of the age where that's probably not how you grew up playing basketball, with that style of basketball. Like, when did you realize that as a coach, that's how you wanted to implement, and what you thought maybe gave you the best chance of winning?
That's a pretty deep question. How long do we have? So I grew up, a North Carolina fan with Dean Smith, and the secondary break. And if you watch our teams play, we still kind of have that secondary break structure. Now the actions within the break are way different. And then I think I was the head coach at High Point at the time, when I really started to press more and to pick up the ball full court. It wasn't nearly as refined as it is now. But I think at some point I said to myself, okay, if you're going to play up tempo on offense, I really believe that your defense should be wed to that, or vice versa. Your defense and offense should be wed. Some people will pressure on defense and play slow on offense, and I just never understood that. It may work, but so we're going to make you earn every board. It's going to go uphill, and then we want the floor to tilt and go downhill, and that's the tilt the floor. And I think it was a pregame speech somewhere along the line that I came up with. We're going to make the floor tilt, and it was good enough that we kind of added it to we call it the words we use. So we have our own little language, and that's a part of the words we use.
Yeah. So as far as this year's roster is concerned, you got quite a bit of talent coming in. Is there any particular player you think we should be keeping an eye on this season?
Well, we have 6 returners. And a lot of those guys didn't get the fanfare, but I really think we have a great group of returners. A lot of those guys were hurt last year. Faison Fields, I expected him to really blossom last year, and two different times he broke fingers and just battled injury all year. We call him D'Lo, but Danilo Jovanovic, he is so skilled. And again, dislocated an elbow in preseason scrimmage, and then had a concussion, had an ankle. So he just battled all year, but he's super talented. Really, really great basketball player. Aaron Franklin, the same thing. Johnny Lovelace. But if you're talking about our new guys, I think you got to watch out for Amar Aguilar. I mean, he's just a kind of a walking bucket. I mean, our guys laugh about it. He just finds a way to put the ball in the basket. It was the National JUCO Player of the Year 2 years ago, and kind of had a rocky year last year, but really good kid. But I love our new guys. I really like our team. I think it's the best team we've had. It just potentially, with the ceiling that they have.
No pressure or anything, Coach. I did pick you first in our way too early poll, by the way.
Oh, well, we'll screw that up for you.
No pressure or anything.
Bob, that was actually why they're playing back-to-back games to start the and non-conference to just get ready for making your predictions come true in the Indianapolis tournament. You got to win
There
two
you
games
go.
in 2 days down there. So
That's
Coach Lundy's
right.
just all over it early.
Yeah, it was a
Hey,
master
Coach,
plan.
Hey, whatever it takes, right? By all
Yeah.
means necessary. Coach, I know in the past, like the 3-point shot was super important to your offense. When you first came to Milwaukee, I think you talked heavily about that in your initial press conference. And I believe there's some certain analytics around the numbers that you needed. Obviously, when you look at year number one, you guys took about 23 a game at 34.5%. Year number two with Milwaukee, you took a few more per game at a slightly lower clip, about 32%. Last year, really dropped off about, I calculated 19 a game and at your lowest clip ever. So is that 3-pointer going to kind of come back to be a bigger part of the arsenal with the roster that you do have, or what? Where are you kind of looking on that front, or do you have to adjust some of your philosophy as a coach on how you want to play with the group of guys that you have?
No, that change in philosophy had to happen last year. We just couldn't shoot straight. It was one of those things, and that's been if you want to know what keeps me up at night is we haven't recruited enough shooting since I've been here. Last year we were the number one fast break team in the country in Division I by a pretty good margin over Florida. And we were, an elite rebounding team and a pretty good defensive team. But we only lost one game when we made over 7 threes. I just think in college basketball, if you can't make the three, it makes it really difficult. And you can do all that other stuff right. But if you can't make enough threes, it's hard to overcome when other people are, getting more points per shot than you are. So we've tried to correct that. I think this year we're for sure going to take a lot more. Hopefully we make a lot more. Time will tell on that, but that was a focus. We really focused on in our recruiting. We focused on shooting, but we really, our number one focus was character. I just think in this era of NIL and portal, we've tried to get the best kids we can get. Early, we took some chances on guys, and some of it worked out, some of it didn't. But I think part of us not getting over the hump on championships has been, small flaws in character and the shooting. So we've tried to address those things.
I had one last question, and this is actually about the fantasy camp that you have coming up on the 27th. What kind of experience can fans expect when they attend to that?
It's going to be really cool. So it will be our entire staff and a lot of our players. We'll take them through everything that we do, how we construct a roster, how we develop the players, how we scout. We have a very specific year-round program. Like now is a different time than in the summer, and what we focus on, how we build the program. How we schedule, the analytics behind what we do. It's just going to be kind of all Panthers, but really any college basketball fan would really enjoy, getting an inside peek. And then we're going to, if they want to go on the floor, we're going to put them on the floor, and we're going to, put them through some drills, and we'll do it in our practice facility. So it's, it'll be a really good experience.
All right. Well, I think that kind of you got one more, Jim?
Hey, it's not a question, Coach Lundy, but I also just want to give you an opportunity to just share another thing that's going on in your program. My understanding, your non-conference exhibition, or excuse me, your exhibition game with Parkside has a little special thing going on that for the, how fans can kind of get more involved with the program financially. Hopefully I've read that right. Could you just kind of walk through what's going on with that? I thought when I read that seemed really unique and cool and very timely for the environment we're in with college basketball this season.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. So Parkside was gracious enough to play us in an exhibition. We're going to let all students in free, but for fans, it's going to be a fan experience. So for the ticket will be $25, but there'll be an enhanced experience with our players, with our staff, and then there's also a gear package. So if you wanted to go to 100, then you're going to get some exclusive gear that our players have. And you're right. In this NIL environment, you're kind of, these events take on a life of their own. And I tried to explain to our folks at the golf tournament yesterday. When you're in the HoriZone League, we don't have a football contract. We don't have the revenue share is basically the revenue that we can generate. So for us this is a storied program. It's a very proud program, and these are challenges that we need to overcome. So these events really give us an opportunity to allow our fans to have a great new experience and to support this new era.
Great. Well, it sounds great. Well, thank you very much, Coach, for joining us. I will be in touch soon because I'm doing the Milwaukee preview for Preview Week. So
Okay.
Thanks for coming on. We're really glad to have you once again.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate everything you do.
Thank you. All right. Well, moving on, we now have Robert Morris coach Andy Toole, the defending regular season and conference tournament champion Robert Morris. So, Coach, thank you very much for joining us. We, as always, enjoy having you on.
Guys, hold on one second. Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, loud and clear.
All right, let me get the video going there. I didn't want to jump in on Bart there as he was doing his thing. But what's going on, guys? How are you?
We're doing great. How are you doing today?
Fantastic.
All right. So after last year, what lessons did you take from that group, that entire season, that you can carry forward to this upcoming season?
I mean, there's a lot of things that I think we learned during the course of last season, kind of how we were able to construct that roster and how they were able to complement each other so well. I don't know if it was something that we knew would turn out as well as it did, but obviously I thought we had so many really complementary pieces on the floor that were able to play so well together. And they really embraced the idea of being where their feet were and being a team. And so, as we went back to try to recreate a new roster for this season, we were looking for guys that had some of the same competitive DNA, looking for guys that had some of the same skills, ability, and size, et cetera. Some of those guys are going to be hard to replicate, right? But that was our goal as we put together this year's edition of the Colonials.
Coach Toole, I feel like I've read articles about how going back way before the portal was as prevalent as is, about how Robert Morris has always been able to attract some super talented players. And then, when you guys were in the other conference and, you lose them to bigger places, it's kind of like the blessing and the curse of getting the talented players that you're able to routinely get. Who are some of the guys that maybe are going to stand out to fans this year that are new? I love some of the different ways that you brought people in. You had a mix of D1 guys. You had some JUCO. You got some guys coming up from D2 and other levels. Who's going to really stand out to fans this year?
I think there's a lot of guys, and you're right. We've kind of been down this road before, even pre-portal. So with a lot of therapy, I think I've come to grips with how this all works. And obviously the HoriZone League and the success that it's had with the programs and the players and the coaches that have been a part of it, is kind of a breeding ground for guys to be able to springboard to that next level. And so, we again, have to try to find the most talented guys, coach them as best we can. And then if they get other opportunities, then, good for them. But we feel like we've created a little bit of we feel like we have a talented roster. We'll know when we actually get to play against some other people, because right now we're playing against ourselves. But, there's a number of guys that I think have opportunities to really stand out, right? Nikos Chivaludis from North Carolina A&T is a guy who's put up stats at the Division I level, very good rebounder, excellent around the rim. Think he's a guy that we can start to kind of build our front court around, him with Deshaun Good and Josh Hill. Deshaun, obviously, fans in the HoriZone League are familiar with from his time at IU Indy. And then Josh Hill, who's a transfer from Arkansas State, has great size and length and has the ability to shoot the ball. So, we think those are guys in the front court that'll kind of be the building blocks of that front court group. And obviously our front court, really helped us tremendously last year with Alvaro Filgueras and Amarion Dickerson and Ish Platt. So, we're hoping those three guys can kind of give us, in the ballpark of production that we got from, the group last year. And then in the backcourt, obviously Ryan Prather is really our only rotation guy that returns from the team last year. He averaged about 80 games, started some games, came off the bench for a number of others. Cam Wilds, who some fans might, if they looked at our roster, knew him as Cam Carney when he was at Clarion University last year, averaged about 21 a game. Over the summer this year, he changed his last name to Wilds. So Cam Wilds, as well as Albert Vargas, two Division II guys who I think have the opportunity to be some real dynamic guys on the court for us. Tazir Smith is a guy from Louisiana Monroe who redshirted last year, was a junior college guy as well prior to Louisiana Monroe. Those guys are really battling right now and doing some really good things for our program on a day-to-day basis. So, there'll be a lot of new faces, but a lot of guys, I think, similar to last year's team that were fun to root for because of the way that they played the game, the effort they played with, the enthusiasm they played with. And I think we have some guys that are in that mold.
I'm glad you brought up Deshaun Good. Obviously, he was an all-freshman player last year at IU Indy. With him having him with his experience in the HoriZone League, coupled with Ryan Praver, obviously last year, I actually have a couple question or two about him as well later on. But that experience within the conference, how do you feel that's going to help you and your team, as far as the season is concerned?
Well, I think as you go through building these teams now, you need guys that you can utilize as reference checks. And so if you don't have a lot of returners on your team, which we don't, right? We have Ryan, we have a couple of our walk-ons. There's been 3 or 4 times during the summer where I've said, hey, if we do this against these guys, that's not going to work. If we do this against these guys, that's not going to work. And I kind of look at Ryan, or I look at Tanner O'Grady, one of our walk-ons, and I say, am I right? I can also look at Deshaun and say the same thing, right? Because he has maybe not the reference from being in our program, but from playing against some of the teams in our program, playing against some of the players that are in this league. And so he can help hopefully carry the flag a little bit as they walk back to the locker room and they say, Coach Toole's crazy, man. He's talking about playing against somebody 4 months from now. And hopefully those guys can say, no, we got to be ready for those guys 4 months from now. We got to be ready for the intensity, the pressure, the physicality, the size, the details that are going to be associated with us finding a good shot or getting a great stop. And so, he's got to be a guy who can help we can utilize as a reference point with his experience in the league.
Coach, I was looking at your roster, getting ready for our conversation tonight. As a Green Bay fan that didn't have a last length and size last year, it's almost like you had an embarrassment of riches on your roster this year with all the length and athletics. I mean, you just had so many 6'7" plus guys with 200, that weighed 220 pounds. I know they're different than the 3 guys over in the front court last year, but are you able to use them the same way? Or are there things that you can able to do to say, hey, we've got so many, big, long, strong guys that's an advantage for us that we're going to do some things differently on the court than we may have seen from Robert Morris in the past?
I hope so. When we first got in the league, we were always so undersized. And I do believe that, as we got bigger and stronger and more physical across positions, right? Like having a guy like Josh Omajafo on your wing last year, or having a guy like Cam Woods as physical as he was on the perimeter, that helps you. And I remember, the first 2-3 years in this league, we were just getting posted left and right. We were getting bullied left and right. And so we've always tried to get bigger at each position. I also think length really translates. It can really make up for a lot of things on the floor. Where you can get back in and contest the shot, you can tip an offensive rebound, a defensive rebound. So I think there's a lot of positives that come with length. But I think that a lot of these guys, you'll see a lot of the things that we've done last year with guys, because I do believe that they have some of the same skill set as some of the guys that we were replacing. Right. I think, Josh Hill is a really good perimeter shooter. Nikos can put the ball on the floor and pass. Deshaun's kind of a mix of both, right? So I think that those guys will be able to really be versatile guys for us that can help create plays, that can help make good decisions, that can help finish at the rim, or continue to help us defend the paint or work on the backboards.
Hey, Bob, are you
It would
still
be
there?
helpful. Yeah, it would be helpful if I had it was not muted. I wanted to talk about Ryan Prather because you mentioned he is, of course, the lone scholarship player back from last year. He had a pretty eventful off season. I know he was playing in on the worldwide stage 3-on-3. How do you see his role evolving from last season to this one? And what do you think he was able to? How do you think he was able to grow as a result of going up against international competition?
Well, I think it was an awesome opportunity for him and a great experience. And it's kind of a funny story. So his girlfriend is Dacia Lewandowski, who plays at Youngstown State on the women's team. And her father, they met at Akron and they dated for a while now. And her father, Joe, helps run the USA 3-on-3. And so, he mentioned to me the idea of Ryan getting involved. And, once he got the opportunity to get involved, it was a no-brainer for us to let him have that experience. And he enjoyed it tremendously. I think there's great value in the way that they play FIBA 3-on-3 with the quick decision making necessary, the read and react style of basketball, the continuous flow of it. So we felt like it'd be a really good thing for Ryan to experience, and he enjoyed it immensely. What we need to see from him is just more of the same, and maybe a little more volume of it. But obviously, he was efficient as a shooter. He really rebounded the ball excellently as the year went on, became better and better defensively. So we need that continued production in those areas, and then maybe increasing the volume of that, because he'll probably be on the court for more minutes than he was last year, right? I think one of the biggest things that we're trying to talk to him about right now is modeling the behaviors that we need on a daily basis. He's one of the only guys that knows what this is supposed to look like when it all comes together. And as messy as it can be in the summertime and in September, we need some guys that are helping put people in the right position and making the game and practice a little bit easier for them. And so Ryan's working on that. And again, I think that's maybe the next step. Aside from his production on the court and his ability on the court, the next step is maybe helping kind of pull some guys in the direction that we need them to go in, so that we can continue to improve and develop as a group this year.
Coach, kind of switching gears a little bit, going into the non-conference schedule. I think I saw it on your website. Maybe I saw it somewhere in social media, but it looked like you had some home games with Toledo and UIC, road games with St. Bonaventure and Drake. If you could just talk about your scheduling philosophy, and I think in particular, I love those four kinds of games. Those are really, I think, the type of games that the Horizon League to show how competitive and serious it is as a league. If you can get some W's against those kinds of teams, that's really going to stand out. But could you just walk us through a little bit about what you're thinking when you put your non-conference schedule together every year?
Well, I think we're always trying to prepare ourselves for the Horizon League. We're always trying to put some teams on there that we can get exposed and learn what our weaknesses are. And, there's a number of times last year we went into the locker room, maybe after we played Towson, and we said, that's a high level Horizon League game, right? That's what it's going to feel like. That's what it's going to look like. That's what your opponent's going to resemble. And this is where you've got to be able to perform and function. And so that's what we want to do when we create our schedule. I'll probably sound like Darren Horn a little bit here. Our scheduling got a lot harder this year than it did from last, even though we had a number of guys leave. It was hard for us to get home and homes with people. It was hard for us to get some guarantee games with people because of the season that we had last year. And that's, again, the gift and the curse of all of it, right? But we know Toledo, we know UIC, Bonnie's, Drake. Those are really, really good, strong mid-major programs. Whether they're from the Valley, the MAC, or the A10, those are the premier mid-major leagues in the country. And so we've got to be able to go in, compete against those guys and see where we stack up, because that'll give us a really good indication of what we need to either improve upon, what we need to continue to do more of as we get into our Horizon League schedule.
Yeah, as far as the non-conference is concerned, this is the last question I had. What signs are you looking for specifically that your team is kind of coming together before you hit that conference schedule?
I think it's all the little details that we practice daily. It's the things that we're trying to emphasize daily. I mean, there's a monotony to becoming good, and you got to be able to do the same things on repeat. You got to be able to make the right decisions against switching defense as you do against hard hedging. You got to be able to make the right decisions, to find advantage and keep advantage. You've got to be able to defend certain actions over and over and over during the course of a game. So we want to try to measure ourselves and see how long we can play the right way, how long we can be making the right plays, how many possessions can we stack together where we're doing the right things. That doesn't always mean we're going to make every shot or get every stop, but we've got to be doing things that we know are going to translate into winning basketball, good basketball, and successful basketball in the Horizon League. So that's really our goal as we go through these games in the non-conference. Obviously, we want to win them all, and we want to prepare to win them all. And that's also part of the idea, right? How do we prepare to be able to play some teams that have some different styles, whether it's Toledo maybe being a heavy set team, whether it's Bonnie's being last year they were more of a fast break open court team. That's going to resemble some of the things we're going to see, within the league. And so we have to see some different styles, some different programs, so that we can understand what areas we got to continue to improve upon.
All right. Well, Coach, thank you very much again for joining us again this year. We really appreciate you having on, and good luck to you.
My pleasure. Thanks, guys. We appreciate it.
All right.
Have a great night.
You too.
You too.
Absolutely. All right, and joining us now is IU Indy's head coach, Ben Howlett. Coach, thank you for joining us. Seems like it's been a while since you and I talked.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on here and looking forward to chatting with you.
By the way, we talked about this on the podcast. You mentioned you'd love to get a chance to throw out the first pitch at the Indianapolis Indians game, the Pirates AAA affiliate. Sure enough, you got that chance. First of all, if there was any doubt of what Luke Basso is capable of, that should all disappear from all of you. How did that rate on kind of the cool things that you've been able to do in Indianapolis since arriving?
Yeah, it was a great experience. Oddly enough, I'm a big Pittsburgh Pirate fan, so they're obviously the AAA affiliate of the Pittsburgh Pirates. So great experience. I was going to go and throw as hard as I can. That's one thing I told myself. I was going to go in there and try to throw as hard as I can, and I did that, but I bounced it still. So I need some work on that, but I did throw as hard as I can, so that was a good thing.
I did not. I guess I believe Andy Toole did actually throw out the first pitch at a Pirates game, and Rob Summers, who's coming up later, just last week he threw out the first pitch at the Guardians game. I have not checked tape on any of those, so you'll be fine.
Yeah, well, just know that I threw from the actual mound. I didn't take steps up, so make sure you put that in there.
I will make a note.
Now, for the record, were you out of the stretch or from the windup?
Wind up. I don't know if I could do it from the stretch. So I went from the wind up and still bounced it though. So, but the catcher caught it, so that's a good thing.
When you think about catching, it's all that matters. You didn't throw it into the mascot. You didn't knock over the camera person. You got it where it's supposed to go. Close
That's
enough
right.
that they would have looked at it, at least considered it for swinging.
That's right.
Coach, when you took over May 27th, probably not the ideal way you wanted to start your head coaching career in the Division I level. But one of the things I really appreciate about what IU Indy was able to accomplish since you took over, you guys were one of the first teams to have your schedule out. I felt like you were one of the first teams to have your roster full. What kind of led to the ability for you guys to so quickly get the program back righted and heading in the right direction? Like, what did you identify that you needed to do right away, and what kind of helped you get all those things done when so many of the other teams in the league sometimes really seem to struggle to get those pieces completed?
Yeah, so I got the job and we had one returner from the previous team. So obviously the the first work of order is I had to construct a roster. And we had, I think, 4 or 5 guys committed to the previous staff that we convinced to stay. And then it was obviously it's get to work and attack the transfer portal. And I was lucky enough to bring over 4 of my players from West Liberty from last year's roster, and then 2 guys that were committed to me at West Liberty also joined me. So they were, they were helpful in bridging the gap there with style play, and then really attacked the transfer portal and kind of looked at it from all angles. We didn't pigeonhole ourselves to just, getting Division I guys. We looked at every single person still available on that roster. And then obviously for me, I had to field a coaching staff, and I wanted to get guys that were familiar with me in terms of style play and how I coach. So got 2 guys that were with me at some point in time at West Liberty, and Dan Monroso and Connor Harth. And thought it was very important for me to hire some Indiana guys, and hire John Peckinpah, Devin Heath Granger, and Coach Bruce Fields. And those 3 guys have been great, kind of getting us in the door of the local high schools. And as far as getting the schedule set, it was one of those things. It was pretty much done when I got the job. There were just a couple holes that I had to fill, and it was funny. I'm coming from a school where scheduling was a nightmare, where no one would want to play us, and I got the job, and I think every single Division I school contacted us to play us. So just a little bit of a change of direction, but it's been good. Our athletic staff here at IU Indy is second to nobody. They're able to generate all kinds of material and get our schedule online better than anyone else in the country.
Yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about the coaching staff. You mentioned kind of the local influence that the coaches bring to the table, but I also see a lot because we talked during our conversation about the Mountain East Conference and how kind of there's a connection between some connection between the Mountain East and the HoriZone League, and I see a lot of that influence on your coaching, on their resumes. Not only that, obviously the high level of expertise on your bench. How has that helped you as far as planning both for this season and recruiting in the future are concerned?
Yeah, and it's kind of funny, like with Coach Peckinpah and Coach Granger, both of those guys were in the Mountain East at some point in time. Coach Peckinpah was at Wheeling as the head coach, who was our rival at West Liberty for a year, and just did a great job. He was kind of in the same situation where he got the job late there and put together a roster, and was, at the end of the year when he was there, they were a tough out. And then Coach Granger, was at Fairmont State, which is our big rival, and it's a team that we battle with for recruits, and got to know him a little bit, on the recruiting trail, and just having both of those guys on staff, it's kind of funny. We've been to a couple, local AAU tournaments here in the July period, and those guys are like local celebrities here. Like it's everyone knows who they are, and they've done a great job of getting some of this local talent on our radar, and hopefully they can continue to do that.
And coach, for the roster, you kind of alluded to before, you brought, 6 total players that were committed to or already playing for you with West Liberty. I saw some people from a player from Point Park, Dalton State, UV Wise, Concord. You said that you didn't want to pigeonhole yourself, but I take it like when you're putting this together, you're thinking like, hey, we got to establish a very strong base right out of the gate. Is that kind of a lot of what you're thinking when you're putting this team together, so that Coach Toole is down here talking about like, hey, they have all new guys, and the few returners are able to tell the new guys like, hey, this is what it needs to look like. But you having so many people you're familiar with, I'm assuming that's part of what you were thinking. Like, we need to be able to have some continuity and hit the ground running with the summer workouts. Is that accurate?
Yeah, for sure. And the way we play obviously is different than anyone in the country. So for me to bring over, 13 new players, it would just be tough. So those 6 guys that we brought over from West Liberty have been pivotal, just in terms of telling guys how we practice and the expectations, and just kind of the way we do things, because we're not only different in terms of basketball, just the way we kind of conduct ourselves as a program, we're a little bit different. And then the other guys that we brought in, there was kind of a connection with them as well, with Corey Boston from Concord. They were in our conference in Point Park. We got a kid from Point Park, obviously, and they've been in our conference. So they knew about us, and if they didn't know about us, they were familiar because they read about us. They read about the system and they want to be a part of that. So we did our homework on them. They did our homework on us, and So far it's worked out for us.
So, wanted to talk about the system, the practice part of the system. um just the rigor of, because we talked about this in our conversation during on the podcast about the rigor of your kind of practice regimen. What have you taken away from the workouts over the summer, and have you gotten to a point where you're seeing players who may not have played in the system before getting acclimated?
Here's what I'll tell you right now about the way things are going. I think we're definitely a work in progress. We're inconsistent right now. There are some days when things look really bad, and there are some days where it's like we're not a bad team. And I'm pretty hard on my team anyway. I'm never even we were 30-5 last year. I never thought we were very good at the Division II level. So I'm a glass half empty guy. But the one thing that I'm pleased with is I think the effort's really good. I think guys are trying hard, and that's a big thing in our system. And that there's competition at multiple positions, and I kind of have a slogan for them right now. It's I'm open for business. Like no one's guaranteed anything here. You got to earn all that stuff, and I think guys kind of like that. And every day in practice, again, it might not be pretty, but at least these guys are trying.
Coach, I don't necessarily want to single out one player, but one player I do want to ask about. So I know you have plenty of talented players, but one player I in particular want to ask about is Jackson Edwards. My understanding he's from the Indianapolis area. That's a guy that when I saw him leave Valparaiso, I was like, oh, that'd be great if he could stay in the HoriZone League. And then he went to the St. Bonaventure and we gets back in the portal, and I was like, there's a guy that should be in the HoriZone League. Is that a guy that's going to be a really good fit, do you think, for your program, or how's he coming along? Because he's the guy that stood out to me when I looked at prior to you getting the job. He was the guy I thought was the prize of the recruiting class for the previous staff.
Sure. No, I think Jackson, first off, he's just a great kid. Like he smiles all the time, and just his attitude is contagious. And I think there's always a learning curve when you go from one system to another. And I think there's even a bigger learning curve when you go from a system to our system, just because we're so up tempo and we press, for 40 minutes, and it's just so different. But I think, over the past maybe week and a half, Jackson's really, made a spark for us. And there were some things that he had to get better at. And one of them was just his conditioning. And his conditioning wasn't very good when he first got here, but he's worked on that. Now he's in great shape. And just maybe some decision-making areas where he had to get better. And he's improved, vastly with the decision-making. So, he's kind of a jack of all trades. He's able to do a little bit of everything. He's got good size. He can guard guards. He can guard inside. And from an athleticism standpoint, he's our most athletic player on the team. So he's in a battle right now. He knows that he's in a battle with a couple guys for a position. And I'm looking forward to seeing how he does throughout the remainder of the offseason.
So you talked about the core that you're bringing over from West Liberty, the 4 players that were on your team last year, and then the 2 who are going to be joining you this year that have joined you at IU Indy, but specifically the 4 guys who played with you last year. Having those guys who know your system well, what have they been able to do as far as kind of pass along what they know, what they've experienced to the rest of the team?
Yeah, I think they've been so valuable because they can talk about playing hard. And there's just so many plays within a basketball game where, if you run the film back and watch it and say, well, if you would have ran hard here and you would have sprinted instead of jogged, you would have got the loose ball, and or you would have got the rebound or whatever it may be. Our guys know that because I harp on that day in and day out. So those 4 West Liberty guys have been great just in terms of getting guys to play hard and holding guys accountable. And if, we keep track of winning and losing and everything, every drill, every practice, every open gym, we keep track of all that. And our guys, from West Liberty, made our guys aware of that from the get-go. That, hey, coach, cares about winning. Winning matters to coach. And if you don't win in practice, and if you don't win in these open gyms, or if you don't win in any drill, he's not going to play you. So it makes practices more competitive, and guys know that every drill, every practice matters. I think they've done a really good job of helping other guys understand that.
Hey, Bob, the last question I have is more of a fun question. So if you have a more serious basketball question, feel free to go.
No, go on.
All right. Coach, stick with me here for a second, but I did a little online research. It looked like your conference winning record or conference winning percentage was 88.6 when you were at West Liberty. And then I went and looked at Ben McCollum at Northwest Missouri State, and he won 79.3% of his conference games. So can you confirm that head coaches named Ben, coming from D2, that were their alma mater with a 79% winning percentage or greater, are guaranteed to win a first round NCAA tournament game in their first year as a head coach? Can you just kind of put that out there for us, please?
You're putting some pressure on me now, putting me in the same sentence as Ben McCollum. Here's what I'll say. We played Ben McCollum. This was back, I believe, in the COVID year in the Elite Eight, and one of my better players, blew out his knee like a few games before, and that got us pretty good. And I've always wanted to play him again because I think we could have been better than that. So, but his path and what he's been able to do just so quickly, a lot of the college basketball world was talking about it like they were amazed. It didn't I knew it was going to happen. It was just a matter of when for him. It wasn't a matter of if, it was a matter of when. And he's just such a phenomenal coach. But if I could guarantee that, I'd be a rich man, Jim. But I'm not going to guarantee that. The one thing I'll guarantee is we're going to play really hard. We're going to play really hard, and we're going to be a fun brand of basketball to watch.
I didn't have anything else besides the fact that I know you have a no cursing rule. Let me just say I probably would have gotten kicked out of the first practice.
I wouldn't.
I'm just throwing that out there.
Would you have made it to a practice is the question. You might have been.
I mean, that probably wouldn't have happened either.
Yeah.
You know what? Now that I'm thinking about it.
Right.
Jim might have lasted 5 minutes longer than me, though, to be fair.
At least he's doing better than you, though, right?
That's true. All right. Well, Coach, thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate you having on again. So we look forward to seeing you and your team this season.
Yes, indeed. Thank you guys for having me on here.
All right.
Have a good night.
Thank you very much. All right. And I see now we are joined by Cleveland State's head coach, Rob Summers. So, Jim, this is going to be my part of this show. So, Coach, thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate you having you on.
Hey, how you doing, Bob? Great to meet you guys.
All right. So I want to go back to our conversation back in April. We were talking about some of the places you like to eat. You did mention Mitchell's ice cream. Then fast forward to the summer and Hoops and Scoops happened. So I don't recall asking what your favorite flavor was, first of all, but I did want to ask, how the impact of events like that are in kind of attracting interest to CSU basketball.
Well, first and foremost, my favorite ice cream flavor is chocolate peanut butter, so I'll clear that up for you. I'm a big chocolate.
There you go.
Guy. Even though that berry crumble is a seasonal flavor that's pretty good out there too as well. But I think it's been important. Carrie Neville, in charge of our marketing here at Cleveland State, has been key. She's a lifelong, been here for 20 years, I want to say. She was here when I was here as an assistant, but she's done a great job of kind of getting us ingrained in the Cleveland community, and actually had a couple of people from around the city come up to me and say, this is awesome that you guys are actually doing this and really trying to get involved with Cleveland, because sometimes there can be a disconnect when you're in such a big city and you have University of Cleveland State. So it was a fun time. Our guys really, really enjoyed it. I probably ate way too much ice cream because I probably had a triple scoop every week, so I had to run a couple more extra miles every day I was out there.
Bob, you are going to let me ask some questions or no?
I am going to let you ask a question. You know what? I hope it's the question I know you're going to ask. I'm waiting for it. I know what it is. I hope it's what I know what it is.
I don't even know what my questions are, so this will be great to see if we turn out here, Bob. Coach, one of the questions I had for you though is looking at KenPom stats, Missouri in 2024, and then previously when you were at Miami of Ohio, they both played at a little bit faster tempo than when you were at Cleveland State as an assistant under Coach Gates. What can we expect from this version of Cleveland State in the 25-26 season in terms of the pace of play you're wanting to implement?
Really want to implement the same style of play we had last year in Missouri, and obviously with being under Coach Stale and playing in the MAC and playing a faster space of style, because I think that as a fan and even as a coach, I really we're entertainers. I believe we are actors in a movie that doesn't really have a script. So people want to be entertained. I want to be entertained on the sideline. I want to play a detailed style of basketball, that allows our guys to play freely, but really want to press the tempo, really want to play a lot faster than we had, originally here at Cleveland State. I know the Horizon League is not really a super fast pace, fly it up and down. A couple teams try to, emulate a style, but it's not really known for that. Obviously coming from SEC last year and seeing, how fast the style of play is at that level and seeing the success we had there at Missouri has really sparked my interest in bringing that style here to the Horizon League.
So we had Ben Howlett on, and I know what his system is like, and I know what system I hope you are planning to implement. I've already called the both Cleveland State IU Indy games. I feel like they're going to be track meets.
Hey, trust me, I wanted to hop on while Ben was on here because we had some good Urbana West Liberty battles my first year. I believe we went to triple overtime when Coach Crutchfield was there, but Ben was still there, and I think it was 142 to like 138. It was I don't know if I can if my heart can maintain that style of play. I know that Ben does a great job, and their style is one that's very, very unique. I think I have a little bit of edge on some of the guys in the Horizon League because I've actually went against it and had to prepare for it for my 2 years at Glenville State when I was with Joe Mazzulla, and we talked about West Liberty and then being at Urbana for 3 years. So I've got 5 years of going against the style, so I won't be kind of shell shocked by it. I do envision a lot of people are going to see it and be, credit to Coach Crutchfield for that system of really being like, what is going on out here?
I had one other question. And I think I'm pretty sure I'm one of the first people to ask you about your latest edition, Ivan Spirov from Bulgaria. What does he bring to the table for you, and where do you see him in this rotation?
He brings size and physicality. He brings an older guy who's played pro basketball. He can really shoot the basketball. He's very, very physical out there. He has a knack for just knowing how to play. I haven't played pro for several years now. He understands what it takes at a high level to compete. He's a great kid. He's done a great job here in the last couple of weeks being on campus and just ingraining himself into Cleveland. He loves American food, so he stands by that. I've been trying to get him to go try some different European food spots we have here in Cleveland. He's like, Coach, I love American food. You're not gonna get me to go try anywhere European right now. So, but he's been really good for us just having another older guy. One thing that Coach Gates really taught me well when I was here the first time around was this is an older league. You have to get old, stay old. You have to have a couple of guys, a lot of guys, not a couple of guys, but a lot of guys on their team that can drop a carburetor into an engine. He said you got to have some guys dirty in their fingernails. He's like, it's not a league for a lot of freshmen, a lot of young guys to come through. It was a junior college league for the longest, and now with the portal, you really have to get older guys that understand the physicality and how tough this league is from top to bottom.
Coach, in addition to that, getting those older guys, one of the things I took a look at your roster, you had again, another team with a plethora of 6'7", 6'8", big, strong, long guys. How do you kind of plan to utilize that depth that you have with that size?
We're kind of across the board. We're all the same size. I always mess with my team. I said, man, we're all the same size. We had a couple small guys, and everybody else is pretty much the same height. But I think that was one great thing we had for us at Missouri. We had a lot of, just like size and length that was able to allow to switch up defenses. We want to maintain that same level that Coach Gates and we did in Missouri, where we're able to switch up defenses, whether we're switching 1-2-5, whether we're hard hedge, whether we're blitzing, whether we're pressing. We want to make sure that we have guys that can guard multiple positions, and that's something that all the guys that we added to our program kind of bring that positionless basketball that I think the game has gone to. So it's been very, very, very fun to experience. We have a long way to go, but our guys have been working really hard. So I'm very, very excited about that.
So I wanted to ask about one of your other later editions, Diane Nessa, because I saw his performance for Switzerland at the FIBA U19s, and I'm like, oh my God, this guy can play. I'm glad he's on my team. I should be very neutral here, but I do want to ask, he seems like he's going to be a big piece of your roster. How do you think his opportunity to play on that worldwide stage is going to help him transition to Cleveland State?
He obviously did a great job. I think he really blew up during that time and really did some great things for his country. Winning their first FIBA game for the U19 team and obviously beating France, which is the kind of the big brother to what Switzerland is. So it's exciting to see him do that on that stage. I'm excited to be there in person and watch it. Was able to get out there and see that and see the smile on his mom and dad's faces and obviously with the not having a great year in his standards last year at GW, and really taking his previous experience at Barcelona, playing for there and being one of the top, he was one of the top 12-year-olds in Europe for the longest and experienced a little bit of injuries. But he's very, very versatile. He's a guy at 6'7", 6'8", can really dribble the ball. He showed that he can shoot it at a high clip during FIBA. He's shown how athletic he can be. I've been really, really surprised by his ability to defend from the 1 through the 5. He can really switch on the basketball and guard a lot of people. And he's a guy that wants to win. He's very, very competitive. He's a joy to be around. He's a guy who's got a great pro career ahead of him. I think he's just got to understand at this level how can he be a special player, because I think he can be very, very special, especially in the HoriZone League. So we were very excited to get him before. We're excited to get him earlier before he kind of went crazy in FIBA, because you always know how in this landscape how things go, and when guys start going a
Yeah.
little wild out there. But he really stayed true to his word and the whole recruiting process. And he even told me, he said, "Coach, a lot of people didn't believe in me as much as you did during the process. And then obviously I do these things at U19, and now everyone's telling me I'm the next best thing. You obviously saw that a lot before, a long time before anybody else, and I really appreciate that." So it's been a great relationship with him and his family.
So I am going to ask the question that Bob was going to guess that I was going to ask. You mentioned you had kind of positionless, a lot of guys the same size. There are two guys in particular that are not the same size that have maybe a little connection to another HoriZone League program because they're from the state of Wisconsin or the peninsula of Michigan. Can you just talk a little bit about Ice and Foster and how they might fit into the team this year?
Chevalier is he's good. He obviously knows how to score the basketball. He's put a lot of points on the board. I told him he's probably gonna watch this and be like, "Well, you don't call me Ice." I never call him Ice. It's Chevalier to me. So he's like, "Am I ever gonna say it to him?" No, you can call. I said anybody else can call you Ice all they want to. It's Chevalier to me. But he's been great. I think he understands really how to score the basketball. That's what he has a knack for doing. He can put the ball in the hole. He's really grown a lot over the summer, just learning how to fight through some of the different mental parts of the game that can kind of get him frustrated, because he knows how special he can be and how good he can be, that he wants to be perfect on a day-to-day basis. And he's, I tell my guys all the time, I don't demand perfection. I just want them to be excellent in everything they do. So just be excellent. I know perfection is not going to be attainable for human standards, but so he's been great for us. Really shoots the ball at a high clip, just high IQ guy, knows how to make the right play. A lot better defensively than I expected him to be, because he's known as a scorer. So he's able to really, defend at a high level because he's got some physicality to him. He's a little more athletic than I expected. He told me he could dunk. He dunked one the other day in our team scrimmage, and he looked at me and said, "Coach, I told you I can get up." So it's been excited to be around him, and he's just he's a bright light. He's a shining star. He's somebody that I expect to do a lot of great things for us over the next couple of years in the HoriZone League. And Foster Wonders, what can I say about the kid? The kid is just phenomenal. He's just the ultimate team player. He's just a good spirited young man. Somebody when you walk in, you want to be around him. He's a phenomenal shooter. I tell him he to me will be the best shooter in the HoriZone League coming this year. He really can shoot the basketball at a high rate. He just has to let it fly and be very, very confident in himself. I think sometimes, again, like each one of these kids in this generation, everyone wants to be perfect and they want to make every single shot, and they're not going to be. But I compare him to the Caleb Grill that we had last year at Mizzou. He just needs a little more of the "I don't care, I'm going to let this thing fly" to his game. And Caleb does a great job of that for us at Mizzou. And you look at what Caleb did, being sixth man of the year in the SEC, and playing the summer league for the Chicago Bulls. And again, he's a 6'3" shooter that was just tough and knew how to play. And that's what Foster is. Foster's a little bit taller than him, probably a 6'4", 6'5". So having recruited Foster originally when I was at Cleveland State the first time around, and seeing his journey through Southern Illinois to his highs and lows when he was at Green Bay, and then having him here at Cleveland State. I think that, and my wife always says I'm a big everything happens for a reason type of guy. I'm here at Cleveland State for a reason right now. I didn't get it the first time around because of something, and now Foster's here with me, and I really truly believe he can end on a very, very high note once he realizes how truly special he can be in our system, especially too.
Yeah. So I wanted to my last question. We've talked you've talked about Missouri because obviously you were there last year, and sure enough, day after Thanksgiving, I see Missouri's schedule come out, and Cleveland State's heading to Columbia. As far as that, so as far as that's concerned, what are you looking forward the most about going back to Missouri?
Well, I know my kids are looking forward to hanging back out with Coach Gates' sons. They're some of their best friends, so I know they're looking forward to that part about it and seeing some of their friends that they moved away from. But I'm just looking forward to getting back and seeing Coach and seeing Coach Charball and Coach Klein and Coach Nutt and really fellowshipping with them, but also being able to play a competitive style of basketball and really get another true gauge in the non-conference of what we can do in the Horizon League play. If you look at our non-conference schedule, I didn't do ourselves any favors with our opponents. So we really wanted to prepare ourselves at a high level for what it's going to take to win the Horizon League. And obviously, Mizzou, and with what they did last year, and then obviously who they brought in this year, and their size and athleticism and ability to play and their style of play, which is going to mimic a lot of what we're going to do. Obviously, they're going to have a couple 7-footers and 6'9s and 6'10s playing at the 3 and the 4. So we're going to have to maintain that level of competitiveness with it. But excited to get over there, obviously play against one of my mentors in the game and somebody who means a lot to me in this business. And Coach Gates, who again I can't thank enough for his guidance and my career has been so far.
And then Coach Summers, one last question for you. Travis Steele, when he was at Xavier, he was very big with the stat for kills. And, when you look at how you're building as a head coach here at Cleveland State, is there a stat that you guys keep track of that's not like a box score stat that you would point to and say, when we do that, it's going to be a good night for Cleveland State basketball?
I'm still big on kills. I took that from Coach Gates, and then obviously going with Coach Still, it was like, man, this is awesome because they both statted a lot about kills and having 70 and being at 80% win rate when it comes up to those things. Our biggest thing that we're really going to stat a lot is our time past half. I think if we can get the ball times past half in under 2.7 seconds, we're going to be one of the faster teams in the league. And at that rate, if we can fly up and down the floor, I think we're going to get more possessions. And more possessions is going to keep the game in our favor of what we can kind of bring to the table offensively.
Well, Coach, thank you once again for joining us. By the way, if I'd have known Jim was going to break out the Green Bay windbreaker, I would have been a little bit more partisan.
I was gonna say I was expecting. Don't worry, you need me to send you some stuff. I got you. I got you.
No, I got the hat. I'm good. I mean, like I didn't think to wear it because I'm like, you know what? I'm like, I'm trying to be.
He's got the jersey in the back. Trust me, he's got it all. He got the jersey. He's got the quarter zip on. We got to get
now to be clear, to be fair, Doug Gottlieb wasn't joining us today, so he
had to represent.
But that's fine. But yeah, we do appreciate you coming on.
Bob, it's very important to note right here that these are both my pajamas and my work clothes. So this is just all I've got at this point in my life.
Nothing wrong with that. Fellas, I really appreciate you guys having me on. Anytime you need me, I would love to hop back on with you too as well. So just let me know.
You bet. All right. Well, thank you very much, Coach.
All right.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Hey, Kelley, how you doing?
I'm good, Rob. How are you? That was really good, man. I enjoyed that.
I just enjoy my Kelley Ford emails whenever I look at my schedule and what's going on with all that.
You just got one about 15 minutes ago. Another opportunity.
I'm going to check it out. All right, guys. Enjoy your time.
Thanks, Rob.
Well, that's a good segue. We're joined by the Horizon League's Senior Associate Commissioner Kelley Ford. This is actually the first time we've had you on. So thanks for joining us on the live stage.
Yeah, Bob and Jim, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it. Caught quite a bit of that conversation there with Rob. He's terrific. We're excited about him in the league. And it's just an exciting time for both men's and women's basketball in the Horizon League. So perfect time for me to make my debut appearance with you guys. I'm really excited about it.
Especially today. And we'll talk about that a little later. But I do want to congratulate you on your recent promotion. For those who are joining us who aren't familiar with what you do at the Horizon League, can you kind of give us a brief summary?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you very much. I appreciate that. Very excited about the opportunity. And I really enjoy working with my colleagues both in the league office and then also in our membership. So I'm excited about the future for me and for the league. So my role, as you said, Senior Associate Commissioner for Basketball and Analytics. And right there in the title is, 90% of what I'm doing. I mean, I'm busy year round with basketball related initiatives that we are trying to implement and further in the Horizon League as we pursue our goal of both men's and women's basketball improvement first, but then also, and more importantly, excellence and sustained excellence. We are a basketball league. We are very open about that. Our actions reflect that. And so I spend a lot of time along with our commissioner, Julie Rolash, and our membership determining how can we best move forward and move the needle in men's and women's basketball. In the fall, I also oversee men's soccer. And then in the spring, I am on our golf championship team for both men's and women's golf. So I do have other sports, and I've been the swim and dive lead before. I've been men's and women's tennis. I've done the softball championship. We have a small team. We all do quite a bit, and we enjoy that. And it's great professional growth opportunities for all of us. But as things stand right now, a lot of my time is spent on basketball, and that's perfect for our conversation tonight.
Kelley, when I was looking into your background, I didn't realize how big into the analytics component that you are. And one of the things that I was thinking about, like when you're, leading the charge on scheduling and it's a double round robin format, how do you use analytics to maximize when you're putting the schedule together so that maybe some of the marquee games are in certain places? Like how do analytics factor into double round robin scheduling?
Yeah, analytics factor into everything we do. Scheduling's no exception. And we do have one more year of the double round robin. Of course, we have Northern Illinois joining the league in 26, 27. So we need to determine, is that double round robin continuing or are we doing it unbalanced? So that's going to be, a great conversation that we have with the membership. But when it comes to scheduling, particularly in league play, we do work with a consultant and industry expert, Kevin Pauga. He for day jobs at Michigan State, but on the side, he's helping a lot of conferences at the multiple division levels work on their basketball and other sports schedules. So what we're doing, with our league schedule, and I'd say regardless of the double round robin or not, we're trying to attempt to marry really two philosophical approaches. One is a true non-travel partner approach where you have Wednesday, Saturday games, ideally one home, one away every single week, because that creates great competitive balance throughout the schedule. You're not overloading, a set of home games or road games. It's really great for competitive balance, and so that's kind of like our base format, if you will. Now, there's a lot of factors that prohibit us from being able to use exclusively Wednesday, Saturday, one home, one away every single week. But perhaps among the biggest is we're trying to capture some of the efficiencies of a travel partner schedule as well. And, if you go back 5+ years, we were truly a travel partner league. Now, when we went to 11 members, back in 2022, 23, I think it was, the travel partner approach doesn't necessarily work anymore with that odd number. So we had to come into this hybrid approach, which is really trying to experience the benefits and efficiencies of a travel partner approach while also trying to experience those benefits of the competitive balance and equity of a non-travel partner approach. And of course, then you're considering things like geographic proximity that plays into the travel partner piece, certainly, but rivalry games, you want those to be to the best of your ability on, high profile days of the week. Of course, ESPN, our media partner for decades now at this point, selects, a handful of men's games during the regular season for linear television, I should say. So that plays into the conversation as we're building the schedule, and we need to make adjustments based on what our ESPN partners are telling us they want various games in various windows. So we're looking at everything. Financial considerations, competitive considerations, television considerations, leaning on the expertise of Kevin, who, as I said, works with dozens of conferences. So he has a wealth of knowledge. And our membership is great too. I mean, they guide us, right, with our We have league scheduling principles. So, what are the most important things for us as a league? Again, as we pursue men's and women's basketball improvement and ultimately excellence. We have scheduling parameters that are agreed upon that we must meet in order to have, a schedule that gets presented for approval. And then we also have institutional preferences, because one institution may not like doubleheaders. Another one may enjoy having doubleheaders with a men's and a women's game on the same day. We try to the best of our ability to accommodate those things throughout the schedule when we can as well. So there's a lot of moving pieces. It's a very big puzzle. I enjoy that challenge. I know Kevin does as well, and our membership is terrific throughout the process as we come to ultimately what we feel is a very good product, which was released last week, the 25-26 men's and women's basketball league schedules.
By the way, for those of us who should know who Kevin Pauga is, if you've heard the KPI, that's that guy.
Yeah. I mean, Kevin, he's awesome, right? And he's very well known in the industry. But exactly, Bob, on the men's basketball selection team sheets that the NCAA selection committee is looking at to evaluate resumes on Selection Sunday and in the week leading up to Selection Sunday, there are 7 metrics. One is the primary sorting tool that I think we've all become familiar with in the last 5 or 6 years. You have KenPom on there from a predictive standpoint, BPI, that's ESPN's predictive metric, and then Torvik. Those are the predictive metrics. And then you have results-based metrics, ESPN strength of record, WAB, wins above bubble, and then, of course, KPI. Many think that actually stands for the Kevin Pauga Index. I have confirmed with Kevin it does not. He didn't tell me what it did stand for, but it does not, according to Kevin. KPI does not stand for the Kevin Pauga Index. So big mystery there what it actually is, but the important thing is it is one of 7 official metrics on the team sheets that the selection committee is looking at. So to be working with someone like Kevin to build our league schedules, we're very fortunate, and we really appreciate the opportunity.
You mentioned Northern Illinois coming in next year as the 12th school, and I guess you might have answered this a little bit, but have you and your team been kind of looking at what both the schedule and the tournament are going to be looking like for 2026, 27, and beyond?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as soon as it was announced back in February, I think it was, that Northern Illinois would be joining us in all of the sports that the HoriZone League and Northern Illinois mutually sponsor, which we're incredibly excited about, we got to work. And we were thinking, how does this impact all of our league schedules, not just men's and women's basketball, but all of the sports that Northern Illinois sponsors? How does this impact, the league schedules in those sports? How does it impact the championships, if at all, in all of those sports? And certainly in men's and women's basketball, where we all sponsoring teams make the championship, which those are only 2 sports in the HoriZone League like that, men's and women's basketball, going back to, we placed an emphasis on basketball. We don't hide from that. We embrace it. Yes, those conversations are well underway. We're still working with our membership on how to best implement and be reflective of our new environment of a strong 12-member league. So more to come on those fronts, in the coming months. But we're excited about the opportunities that Northern Illinois presents from a basketball standpoint and just holistically as a really good 12th member of the HoriZone League.
Kelley, when you guys are working on, like you mentioned, Saturday being a pillar for the league for gameplay, if there's no building conflicts, and I know in some cases, where there's multiple tenants in a building, in Green Bay in the past with the men's basketball side, there are many times where they had to get out of the building and because there's hockey coming through that night or something else. But when there's no conflict with the building, how do you guys schedule the tip time? Are you trying to do like an all day where I can see HoriZone League basketball all day? Or are you trying to put, certain games at night? Or is it home team preference? Like, how does that work?
So it's a good question. Home teams do have the discretion to set their tip times. Now, we do have some regulation, some prescription around tip times, not on Saturdays, but on other days of the week, leading into a final exam week, things like that. If a team is traveling a certain distance, because the home team gets to set it, but we do want to make sure that they're being considerate and considering the visiting team, their travel, and what they're doing. You don't have to give them a home field advantage on the road, but we want to make sure we're being good members of the league, because you want to be treated right when you go on the road as well. So that is a home team, home institution decision. I will say, if you have double headers, that could impact what you're doing. Also, if it's an ESPN linear selection game, ESPN dictates that time. When it comes to the championship, though, those are league office mandated times that we're playing those games and or driven by ESPN. But I will say that even those times are approved by the membership. It's not us in Indianapolis saying, hey, you guys are going to play at this time. It's the membership agreeing these are the times that make the most sense for us to play these very high profile postseason games.
So now it's so as I mentioned when I introduced you, the new tournament format has come out. So we now have a new tournament format where we have a 10 versus 11 game on Monday, March 2nd, and then we have this whole group of games on the Wednesday. And we have ourselves an extra game in Indianapolis this year on Sunday, which is, I believe your terms are the two worst seeds that have survived are going to play, and when the winner will then eventually go play the best remaining seed on Monday. As far as that, what was the thought process kind of behind looking at the tournament format and kind of going with this new format?
Yeah, we considered, many different options and presented many different options to the membership with regard to how many rounds are on campus, how many teams come to Indianapolis. And something that we've heard really, so we came to Indy after 4 years in Detroit. We came to Indianapolis in 2020. And so we've had 6 years. Now, granted, one of them, actually, it was the 2021 championship. We did not have any fans because of COVID restrictions. People often say, don't you mean 2020? We got our championship in, as many listening to this probably recall, we got our championship in just before the world shut down. I think
the day before.
It was. We had some extra hand sanitizer on site because at the time that was the CDC or the local county and state recommendations for how to deal with at the time this unknown thing called COVID-19. We got our championship in on Tuesday. Rudy Gobert tested positive on Wednesday, and we all know what happened after that. But we've had 6 years here, 5 with fans. And something that we've heard from the very beginning is from our coaches, from our student athletes, from our administrators, from the fans that come. Everybody who's involved in the games in Indianapolis has nothing but positive things to say about their experience in Indy, at the Corteva Coliseum, in and around the fairgrounds, staying in downtown. Like, all of these things are positive. And so something that we've heard from the coaches and the administrators from the very beginning is, how do we get more teams to come to Indy to experience that? Because yes, on campus round games, early round games on campus, there is an elevated feel to those because we know it's do or die. It's win or go home. But there's something a little bit different about coming to that neutral site in Indy and playing on that neutral court. And so we've worked really hard over the years to figure out, how do we bring more teams here? And, for a lot of reasons, it never made sense. The pros never outweighed the cons until now. And we're really excited about that. So that was a primary driver, is let's bring more teams to Indy, give them an opportunity to experience this great student athlete experience, this great fan experience here at the Corteva Coliseum. And because of the mechanics of an 11-team league, if all 11 teams were going to continue to make the tournament, which we thought was important and the membership certainly felt was important, there's only so many ways you can bracket that, right, to get to 5 teams in Indy over the course of 3 days. And so that's why we landed on the bracket that we did. And it can be a little confusing at first glance, okay, second worst first round winner, third best first round winner. But when we reseed, like we do, and we've done that for many years, and that really is to protect your best seeds, right? And that's what you want to do. You want to have your best foot forward come the NCAA tournament. We want them to win it on the court. That's why we play the games. But we want the teams that have proved it over 20 games in the regular season. Hey, we're the number 1 seed. We're the number 2 seed. They should have the most advantageous path in the postseason, and that's why we do the reseeding. Because we reseed and because the bracket is fragmented in that sense, it can be challenging to describe which team goes on which line. But I think once we see it play out here this year, it'll make a lot of sense for people. And I think generally there was a lot of excitement about it. Of course, you're never going to make everybody happy when it comes to social media and posting and all that. But I think for by and large, people were excited. And I know we really are, to bring 5 teams to Indy and to have 2 games on that Sunday. It's one women's game, 1 men's game. Time's still TBD. More to come on that soon. But we're really, really excited about more teams in Indianapolis, and think this is a great opportunity for growth for this Barbasol HoriZone League basketball championship.
I'd just like to say, for the record, I'm glad it only took me an hour to study the new bracket to understand what was going on there.
Hey, that's better than some. We'll take it. I like that.
Kelley, for the record, I am the more teams in Indianapolis, the better kind of guy, but that's not the
Same.
question I want to ask. Yeah, that's not what I want to talk about right now. With the new format that was released today, so one interesting kind of twist for this year is the 10-11 game is a standalone game where the winner of that then goes to play the 1 seed. And that game, I believe, is being played at the 10's home gym. Did you guys have any other thoughts around how to put that together? Like, does it make more sense to play that, on Wednesday night or Tuesday night or whatever the nights were at the number 1 seeds home court, and then they're playing it back to back? Because obviously we want to protect the number 1 seed and give them the best advantage. Like, how did you guys want to put that piece together since it's a standalone game for the league this year?
Yeah, and again, it comes back to the mechanics of an 11-team bracket and how we need to whittle it down to the 5 teams in Indianapolis over 3 days of competition there. So the short answer is yes. Those options that you just outlined were considered, as well as, many others. I think ultimately what it came down to was regular season ends on Saturday. That is a tight turnaround for that 10-11 game. It's an opportunity to, reward the 10 seed, with a home postseason game. We know how valuable home postseason games are to all of our member institutions on all of our campuses. So an opportunity to reward the 10 seed for that. And also, if you were to put that game on the side of the number 1 seed, from a logistics and travel standpoint, you do experience some efficiencies there. However, what does that do for costs for that host institution, that 1 seed? They're putting on another game that doesn't even involve their team. So there are unintended consequences, I'd say, along those lines that made the option that we selected the most attractive. But we did weigh everything, and we landed on this, which we're excited about. And at least in this version, our current, this is our new current, our former bracket where you had the 2 rounds on campus. And yes, you knew 4 versus 5 was going to happen on Thursday. But if you were in that 6 versus 11, 7 versus 10, or 8 versus 9 game, you didn't know where. I guess the 6 knew if they win, we're going to the 3 seed. And the 11 knows if we win, we're going to the 1 seed. Everybody else, they didn't know. And so at least now, once the bracket is finalized on Saturday at the conclusion of the regular season, every single team knows their direct path, at least to Indianapolis. Hey, I'm either hosting or going on the road on Wednesday, or if I'm in that 10-11 game, I know where I am. I'm hosting. I'm on the road, and if we win, we're going to the 1. So that creates some additional knowns in a very a world full of unknowns for our coaching staffs, our dobos, our administrators, our fans, all of our key stakeholders that had to, I don't want to say scramble, but had to react in live time as games are happening during the postseason. Now it's kind of here's the bracket. You know exactly where you are. You know where you're going. If you win, if you lose, of course you're out. And so that added layer of knowns, I'll say, was also a big positive. And we'll see, right, when we go to a 12 team league. If all 12 teams make the postseason, which if we look at our history, that's what we've done in basketball, with the exception of maybe a year here or there. Then that's gonna force another change with the bracket to figure out what makes the most sense with the mechanics of a 12-team bracket and how many can we bring to Indy and all of that.
All right. Well, Kelley, I thank you very much for joining us. I cannot leave you without. Oh, I'm sorry. You have one more thing?
I do have another question. If Kelley, do you have time for one more question?
Of course, I'm here. I'm loving this. I'm talking a lot, which I'm used to. But if you guys
that's fine.
If you guys are enjoying it, I'm here.
It's an extravaganza for a reason.
I love that.
Kelley, we put you on at the end, so there would be no time limit. See, that's how this works. So you're really supposed to fill till 8 o'clock Central Time. I don't know if Bob let you in on that. So we've got a ways to go here. Maybe you want to get yourself an evening tea or something, and we'll carry on. But all kidding aside, so this is a very specific. Yeah, there you go. This is a very specific question. As you can see with my Green Bay zip up on today, I'm a Phoenix fan at heart. We talked a little bit about preserving rivalries, and so I just want to ask something, and this is going to be way in the weeds here, and so maybe putting you on the spot a little bit, but preserving rivalries, Green Bay, Milwaukee, it has been a longstanding rivalry. Looking back at the last 10 years, 9 of which were scheduled years, were normal schedule. One with the 2020-2021 season was not a normal year because there's you either played at one or the other. You played back-to-back days, to minimize risk. So I take that out. But in the last 9 years, Green Bay's home game against Milwaukee has been on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday 5 times, and on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday 4 times. And for Milwaukee, they've had their home game against Green Bay on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday 1 time, and on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday 8 times. So I'm a big believer in weekend basketball is where it's at. Is that just a scheduling oddity that's come up? Is that a Green Bay preference? Like, for somebody like me who's saying, hey, I want to have my marquee game on a Friday and Saturday night, so maybe I might have a beer or two or three, something like that. How does that all work when you're putting this stuff together?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a fair question. I would say first and foremost that's an oddity. I mean, that's an exception, not a rule. I would also note that during that time frame, and I'd have to go back and check as well, but during that time frame, I want to say, was it the 22-23 or 23-24 schedule? They all run together now. I can't remember. We made that change right towards the hybrid approach. And so in the previous travel partner model, your travel partner game, and I know you've just outlined the differences between Green Bay and Milwaukee, and I take those. In the previous travel partner approach, that travel partner game oftentimes did not fall on a Saturday, which was a big drawback of it, because oftentimes the travel partner is your geographic rival, right? And that's the game that you would like to have on Saturday. So I think our change to approach of scheduling with the hybrid is going to help improve that ratio for you moving forward. That's my hope, and that's certainly something that we're cognizant of. That's certainly not a Green Bay preference to directly answer that. So yes, we're aware. We work on trying to minimize as many undesirable outcomes as possible. And I would say playing your rival on a non-Saturday date is an undesirable outcome. Sometimes it's driven by ESPN. Sometimes it's driven by facility conflicts. Sometimes it's driven by you name it. I mean, there's a lot of reasons this could happen, but Saturdays are important for all of our institutions. I mean, that's when you get the best attendance. That's when you do best, with all of your revenue generation. That's when the most eyeballs are going to be on it, given consumer viewing habits. And so we're aware of that. We try the best we can to thread that needle. And I appreciate the question, but we're going to continue to work on that and be better here moving forward. Certainly.
Right. Well, before we go, I do want to.
Oh,
I'm sorry. Go
I
ahead,
was to say I
Jim.
wasn't meant to put you on the spot. I just I
good.
love the big time environment of a game. I happened to be one time I was traveling. I went to an Oakland Wright State game on a Saturday night when both teams were at the top of the league. And when you put that environment together, great teams, great coaching, Saturday night, like I just love that. So I was just trying to get a little plug for get that juice back in that rivalry a little bit so that people get that same feeling. So Bob, go ahead.
100%.
Yeah. Before we go, I do want to shout out your website, kfordratings.com, especially with it being now we're in college football season. If you're a college football fan, if you go on the site, there's many rabbit holes you can dive down for sure.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Bob. It's been fun, and a lot of the work that I'm doing in the college football space, and I do during the basketball season, I do men's college basketball power ratings and resume rankings as well. But a lot of the skills that I've learned over the years, with my background being what it is and my hobby work being where it is, those are things that I can bring to the league office and help improve some of the things that we're doing. And so it is a hobby. It is something I do on the side, but I do think that the experiences I have doing it make me better in my day job here with the HoriZone League. And that's something that I'm really excited about and hopefully shines through in the work that we're able to put out in the basketball space.
Yeah. Don't let your hobby take over. Trust me on this one.
Yeah. No, hey, you guys, we appreciate what you do to promote the HoriZone League and basketball in our league in particular. You guys have day jobs, you have full-time things you're doing, and the fact that you dedicate this much time, effort, energy, and attention to HoriZone League basketball, men's and women's, we really appreciate it. I know there's a lot of people out there that really appreciate it. That's why everyone's tuning in and listening. But thank you guys for what you do. It means a lot. And for fans like you, for our member institutions, our student athletes, our administrators, those are all the people that we do what we do for every single day in the office, Monday to Friday, and on the weekends too, especially when we're playing games. So you guys are the reason we do what we do, and without you, it wouldn't be possible. So we really appreciate it.
Yeah. And thank you once again for joining us tonight. It's been great. Loved all the explanations, and we look forward to. I know I'm gonna see you in Indy. I'll see you then.
We can't wait. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Jim. You guys are the best. Really appreciate it.
All right. Have a good
Thanks.
night.
Have a good night.
Thanks, guys.
All right, and we're going to close out. We've got John Templon here. He's going to be doing the Horizon League preview for the second year in a row for the Blue Ribbon Yearbook. John, thanks for joining us. Appreciate you joining us again this year.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Now I have to apologize to you because I didn't realize you were still on Blue Sky. Otherwise, I wouldn't have stalked you on LinkedIn to find you.
No, that's fine. Yeah.
So, so Jim, I didn't really have too many questions other than who do you think is gonna win the league? I think I already telegraphed who I was. I already think it's gonna be Milwaukee, but I may or may not be wrong. Bart Lundy is probably already not happy with me for putting all that pressure on him.
Well, I got bad news for Bart Lundy. I picked him too.
Oh
So,
yes, yes,
um,
good.
yeah. I mean, I think we're in an era where teams get constructed on the fly at the mid-major level for the most part, although we'll talk about the one exception to the rule this year there in the Horizon League Detroit, which is an interesting story. Um, but I think Bart's shown he can do this. He can put a team together on the fly, and he can bring a bunch of talented players together, and he's got a ton of talent on the roster, and so it's just a matter of, can he turn that into a cohesive team? Can he get them to play offense the way he wants them to play offense, and can they defend? And I mean, there's more athletes on that team than any other team, so that's why I've
Oh
got
yeah,
them picked
without a
first.
doubt. So see, that's where I went. That's where I was going with that.
Well, I think it's gonna make Coach Lundy happy then if he doesn't like the pressure of the two of you picking them to win. I sure as hell didn't pick them to win, but that has nothing to do with their team, which I think is going to be an amazing team. It has everything to do with, just a little bit of fanhood. But John, when you're
No,
looking
not
at
you, Jim.
not me, never me. I would never do that. John, when you're looking at, the work that you do and making predictions for the league, like how deep does that go? Like roster turnover is at its highest level. Are you watching video of every guy? Or are you just looking at the analytics or the stats of every player? Like, tell us a little bit about like how nerdy do you like to get with it?
Yeah, so I mean, part of the previews, I talk to every single coach in the league, get their feeling for their teams and get their feelings for other people's teams, off the record, which is helpful. I also yeah, look at the stats a lot. Look at trying, and the problem is translating a lot of those stats, right? Like the way the Horizon League recruits right now is that so many of the players are coming either from the JUCO level or D2 or even D3, that you have to, or NAIA, you have to really take some of the stuff with a grain of salt. Like, it's not necessarily like your 25-point scorer in D3 is not going to be 25-point scorer in the Horizon League, most likely. Although, yes, there are exceptions to the rule.
With the noted exception.
All right. Hey, I don't know. I just know that Green Bay has one of those 25 point per game D3 scores. So please don't burst my bubble on such a fun night of Horizon League basketball.
I'm pretty sure Cleveland State has one of them too, by the way.
And I think Robert Morris has one as well. So yeah,
yes, that's true.
There's one everywhere. Yeah, so there's quite a few of them out
So
there.
let's see.
And I mean, if you can put a ball in the basket, I think coaches want you because you're going to be able to score at least a little bit. Yeah, so I look at that. We look at the returners. We look at who's coming in. I tend to value D1 experience more than non D1 experience. And then yeah, kind of cross your fingers. I mean, I don't know. It's really hard in the Horizon League. I think I could have picked. There's kind of a clear top five, I think, but I think you could pick any of those five to win the league probably. And I have no idea what to do with Green Bay, Jim. So I'll tell you that I picked them last, but only because I don't know what to do with them.
I am literally the only person who picked him as high as I did.
I was going to say, I don't even think they have last place talent. I think they have much more talent than last place. I just don't know where to pick them. And so I just put them there. And
you want to know where I picked Green Bay, and you're going to think I'm insane.
I mean, Torvik has them like sixth, so I'm curious.
I got them fourth.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty high.
Yeah. I'm glad
But
you did
yeah,
bring up Detroit. Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Detroit Mercy because I really love what that the transitional. You got Orlando Lovejoy coming back. You got a bunch of those three freshmen. Just get them get. I guess kind of the one of the upsides of having all their players hurt last year is having three guys like you know Mitchell. I'm sorry, not Mitchell. Nate Johnson, Ryan Callenbay, and TJ Nadeau getting a lot of playing time, and that really is going to
yeah,
help them moving forward. I also may have them very. I have also may have them way too high. I picked them second, but
okay.
um, yeah, I
I mean,
know.
I will say I get it. I don't have them second, but I get it, and I was really torn about where to pick them because I think they have a lot of continuity, and the question is like, is that continuity in this era like, does that just get you wins in November and December, or does that get you wins in January, February, March? Is what I don't really know, and I'll be interested to see. And I think those freshmen are very talented. They are obviously forced to play a lot of minutes last year.
Yeah,
And so now they're sophomores and hopefully they'll be better. And I think Coach Montgomery thinks they're going to be better. So and obviously they still have Orlando, which I'm impressed they were able to keep him. So
yeah,
I think that has a little bit to do with the record. I think coaches are like looking at team records when recruiting like high profile players like that. But
mhm,
I also think you just like the situation in Detroit, it sounds like. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's an interesting thing, John, when I think about players, like this is definitely not a peer-reviewed mathematical equation I've come up with, but just something I've always used as a rule of thumb. If a player is coming up or down in level, I like to, either have or double their stats. If somebody is a 4 point per game guy who played 15 minutes in a high major, he's probably an 8 point per game Horizon League guy. And if somebody's a 20 point per game D3 guy, they're probably a 10 point per game Horizon guy, just as a rule of thumb. Usage and other things can factor into that. But what I don't have a good feel for anymore, because there aren't anybody it feels like people don't stay in the same place long enough to look at year to year growth. And so it'll be very interesting. Green Bay is another team where they retained a couple of key pieces where you had some guys that, had double digits. Are they going to take a step forward, and will it be meaningful enough? So do you kind of have any rules of thumb that you apply with players, or is it just, you really work on focusing on like, hey, I'm just going to talk to Coach Toole or Coach Summers or Coach Howlett, and they're just going to tell me, and I'm going to go with that.
I will say like one of the things I really look for is like, is there an obvious hole in this roster? Like like you need, a guy who can handle the ball and be your primary ball handler. You need people who can play defense in the paint. You need, secondary scorers. And do all those things exist on the roster? And sometimes they just don't. And so then you can like kind of ding a team for that. Um, or there's a big question mark about who's going to be that player. And like, some of the teams have proven Horizon League players who didn't play at their school playing those roles for them this year, and things like that. So Deshaun Good, for instance, comes into mind as a player who like proved himself last year, new team this year. I assume that he will help Robert Morris be good this year. Um, but so it's more looking at that. Coaches have also told me they really think rebounding translates level to level. So I don't ding the rebounding as much when I'm looking at players. So like interior players at least get credit for that. And then the question is like, will that athleticism for like block shots and things like that translate as well? We saw it translate pretty well for some of the players that came to like, for instance, Robert Morris last year. Um, and it's also a very valuable skill. So it's hard if a Horizon League team gets a guy who can block shots. It's surprising, and like it's also a big wild card. Like I think
Sure.
if Torval can be a big presence and come back from injury for Northern Kentucky, like he could be a big factor this year in how that roster comes together. But I think I have big questions about that, and so I don't have Northern Kentucky very high.
Neither do
And
I.
And so, like, those are the kind of things that I'm looking at when I'm trying to pick the league. But it's so hard because of all the turnover. I also think there are certain schools that have budgets that get a certain
Yeah.
quality of player. And I think we all know who those schools we're talking about. But
I wonder who
like,
those are. Youngstown State.
yeah, so like the guys they're bringing in, and they've also been doing this for the last 5 years. So the guys
Yeah,
that they're bringing in, I trust a little more than maybe some of the other schools.
sure.
Hey, John, when you're talking to the coaches around the league, the financial piece of this has changed so much, and being able to acquire really talented players in some cases requires some financial means. Do you get a feel either on the record or off the record for how much a Horizon League roster is? I don't need you to share that with me if you know. I'm just curious, does that come up as part of your conversation? Like, oh, well, this is a X $100,000 roster versus this is a, half of that type of roster. Do you get that kind of information? Are people willing to share that, or is that really top secret and they're not going to give that to anybody on or off the record?
I hear a lot about what their players who went high major got, for sure. Um, I don't get you don't hear as much like figures on the record, but you definitely get a sense of who the league thinks has money and who they don't think have money. Is what I will say. And and also like different schools prioritize different things with their money. So like some schools are trying to spread it around, get a whole bunch of players in, find the guys that hit the biggest, and hopefully reward them in the future, and or say, look, if you do this here, you're going to go play somewhere else the next year. Um, and some schools are trying to get the best players they possibly can. YSU, like I think that's the difference. And you hear that a lot from looking at the league.
So one of the things and I have to ask about instances of Horizon on Horizon crime since you brought up Deshaun Good going from
Yeah,
IU Indy to. Does that help you at all when you're looking at these
for
teams?
sure. Yeah, it definitely does because they've played in the league.
Let the
They've,
record reflect John Templon is pro Horizon on Horizon crime.
I mean, I find it odd, and coaches are almost apologetic for it when you ask them about the players that they're bringing in. I think the good situation is a little different because of the coaching change and things like that, right?
Yeah.
There are some other ones that did not involve a coaching change that are pretty interesting. And so um, I'm trying to. Why is the name escaping me?
Is it Darius
Uh,
Duffy?
yes, Darius Duffy. That is who I was thinking of. Yes, so like I know Darius Duffy can be a productive player in the Horizon
Yeah.
League, right, in the front court, and in some manageable minutes. So like that's an easy one for me to plug in as a yeah, he will probably contribute in some way to this team being successful. Yeah.
As far as I'm sorry, you have a question, Jim?
You know, Darius Duffy's a good example. So when I look at Fort Wayne's roster, it is a very interesting team because they had a lot of turnover, and I feel like they have a lot of young guys. So
Mhm.
you get a Darius Duffy who's been around, seen some things, done some things, and then you pair that with a lot of young guys. Like that's got to be a John Templon nightmare, is what I would assume for when you're writing a preview.
Yeah, I have no idea where to pick them, I will say.
See, good
And
for
I
you because
mean,
I have no idea where to pick them either, ever, ever. I'm
um,
always
I
wrong.
mean, and Kaufman's a coach that I trust to put together a roster with players he thinks can play his system. I think he has one of the most definable systems of a coach, especially offensively in the Horizon League, right? You know what he wants to do. And so I was actually surprised that Duffy was one of the guys that was coming to Fort Wayne. But he seems to think that he will be the interior presence that they need. So I think that'll be really interesting. And I think that team is expecting big things from Corey this season.
Yeah.
And I think there's clearly a role for Maximus Nelson, who had a decent season last year, especially shooting the ball from three. And so you're starting to build like, and this is what I do in my head is like, okay, that's three spots filled, right? But those are three spots we trust. Like there's a lead scorer, there's a secondary, perimeter stretching guy, and there's a front court guy. And then you start to try and figure out, well, who are these new guys they're getting? Are they going to be any good? I have no idea. Like, and that's the hard part. And that's where you need to talk to the coaches and figure out like who fits into your system? Who do you think can play well? And sometimes players come out of nowhere. Like coaches don't even expect them to play well. Like even in summer practices, coaches will tell me like we brought in this kid and all of a sudden he's blowing up in summer. And like, if you hear that, it kind of, makes me think about, okay, maybe that is somebody who we need to be, watching a little more closely.
Is there any benefit, especially during the off season, of like watching things, getting anything from like the summer pro-am leagues or maybe international competition? I know when we talked to Rob Summers, talked about Diane Nessa playing at the FIBA U19s for Switzerland and watched his game. Is there any benefit kind of to what you're trying to do, watching these guys play in those environments?
I definitely go look at the stats of the international guys in those kind of tournaments and see how they've played against those competition because sometimes some of those tournaments have either older players or if they're the youth tournaments, they have players who are going to be playing at a similar level. So like that's helpful. Um, I think like, I mean, and as international recruiting becomes a bigger and bigger thing, and as more schools are bringing in international players that they're going to rely upon to play roles, like it's helpful a little bit that way, I would say. Yeah, for sure. What did Rob Summers tell you he's going to do this season? Because he's a big wild card too, like he comes
Yeah.
in. I mean, he's from that tree, right?
Yes,
And
the Dennis Gates coaching tree. Yes, I know it
yeah,
well.
and he's
Um,
clearly very good as an assistant offensively. Like he's been
yeah,
running basically Dennis Gates' offenses, but I have no idea what that defense is going to look like, and I'm very interested to see if he continues to play that style at Cleveland State.
it sounds like he is definitely looking at that. I already told him that both the Cleveland State IU Indy games this year are going to be track meets. I'm looking for ABA numbers at these games, both these games. Just looking for them.
John, if it helps you, I believe he shared that the stat he talked about was time past half court, 2.7 seconds. So you definitely look at a team that's trying to get it up the court in a hurry. Was one of the things he shared with us when he was on.
Yeah,
That's great. That'll be really fun, I think, and it'll be good for the league because it's a big switch from what Robinson had been running the past few years. So
yeah. So
um,
defense, it's gonna be a
yeah.
shock to the system of Cleveland State fans. They were so used to the last 3 years being such a defensive minded team.
Yeah.
But to this team that I see who they have coming up, and it's like they got shooters, they've got slashers, they got everything. On the offensive end, I haven't figured out what they're going to do on defense yet.
I mean, I don't know what they're going to do on defense either, but yeah, they have players who can score for sure. And again, they have an inter-conference transfer as well in Foster Wonders. So like that's another guy who we know can contribute to a Horizon League team and can make a shot or two. And so I think
I
that
know
that'll
for
be
my
interesting.
sake, I know he was kind of in a shooting slump last season. I hope he's over that now. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think the other question is how healthy is Josiah Harris? I think that's a
That is a good question. I did not even think to ask Coach Summers about Josiah Harris because I know he got hurt at Akron, and I don't know kind of where he is in the process. And I think maybe because and maybe kind of having in Nessa and the other guy who they brought in, Spirov, the Bulgarian, um, maybe that offsets that a little bit. And I think the other thing, and by the way, I'm glad Rob Summers mentioned the fact that Spirov played apparently a little bit of pro ball. Jim, as I said on our last podcast episode, yeah, Jonathan Levy walked so everybody else could crawled so everybody else could walk.
Hey, John, when you're
um,
looking, you've talked to everybody around the league, and are there some names of guys that not necessarily that coaches told you, but when you did your homework and you saw the fit and you said, hey, here's maybe a freshman I really like, or here's a D1 transfer I like, or some of these non D1 guys that have come up, like who are some of the names that you really have your eye on individually as players and say these are guys that when the all league awards are coming out at the end of February, these are some names that might not be or everybody knows Orlando Lovejoy, right? But who's the guy that's the next Orlando Lovejoy that maybe we aren't thinking about? Do you have any names like that kind of pop up at you?
Yeah, for sure. I have I have two non-returners on my all-conference team preseason. One is Amar Aguilar at Milwaukee. He is just an amazing scorer of the basketball. His track record at every level of college basketball speaks for itself. I think the question is like, can he be focused? And it sounds like Bart Lundy thinks he's going to be very focused and ready to play for this team this year.
Yes. He also mentioned
So
that as well when we had him
yeah.
on first.
So if that's the case, I expect him to put up big numbers in the Horizon League this year. So that's one. And the other one is a little different. But Vlad Salarizzi at Youngstown State
Hmm.
is a player who I think can just do a little bit of everything, and has been successful at the D1 level, and I think gives them a player who will like benefit from just being able to play in a lot of different situations for Youngstown. And it's the type of player that Youngstown can get that maybe not all Horizon League teams can get. Um, but I do think that he has a big chance to be a key player this year in the league too.
How did the whole change at IU Indy kind of how did you see that kind of coming to pass with having this whole entire team you thought was going to be there becoming this whole other team that's going to start out the season?
Yeah, IUND was actually one of the first interviews I did this year, which was interesting. Because Ben had just been hired. And his track record at D2 is incredible. And so I think he comes from a coaching tree that has been very successful. And he has been very successful. And so it's just he was building a roster on the fly as we were talking. And so it was interesting talking to him about it and trying to
On the
understand like
fly
what he
is
was
kind
going
of
to
an
do.
understatement. I think he got his entire roster together in like 3 weeks. Like
Yeah, it was
he had him
wild.
in before summer workouts. Like holy
I
crap!
mean, he brought in all those players
Yeah,
and like he didn't even know he was going to be the coach like for and they were one of the first rosters to actually be released online. So it
yeah.
was pretty impressive. I It'll be really interesting to see how that team comes together and that's a team where, it's basically all players who have not played at D1 level except for a few transfer exceptions.
Yeah.
Um, and there are a lot of players that were originally recruited to play high level D2 and now will be playing at the Horizon League instead. Um, Talking to a lot of coaches around the game, I think that maybe that's fine. There's not maybe that much of a difference, but I also think like it really depends on how they're coached and if you want to if Coach Howlett is really going to play the style he claims he's going to play, where he's going to press and they're going to play that fast and which is what he does,
Mhm.
then he's going to need 12 guys, and like he regularly plays, I think 10 to 11, 10 minutes plus. So like, how are you like? Is he going to have that depth to do that? I don't know. It's going to be fascinating. I wrote in my preview they were 307th nationally last year in pace, and so like
And
it's
it's
just
funny
going to
you
be a
mentioned that
shock to the
because
system. Everyone in
which
Indy.
is funny because the pace that Corsaro played last year was eons faster than during the Matt Crenshaw era. I mean, that was always slow as molasses.
Yeah, it's going to be a completely different world this year, and I think it'll be really interesting to see what happens. And I think they're a huge wild card of a team.
Sure.
Bob, I'm gonna do my impression of John. He had done his prep work for IU Indy, and then everything happened, and so he was just kind of like, "Okay, we got to start over here."
Yeah,
When he
just
got on the
delete the
phone,
file. Yeah,
yep,
exactly.
start over. Nothing from last year's carrying over. Let's see what we got here. But actually, that brings up an interesting point. So you said you talked to him right after he had taken over. So when you're putting your work together for the leagues that you're covering, how early are you beginning this process, and how much time does it take to do one team's preview?
So I start in like early to mid June. And they're all due by the end of August to my editor. Um, I have the entire Horizon League except for Northern Kentucky. And so,
Did you
because
get
my
so? How'd you
editor
get?
is like friends with the coach.
Ah,
So that's why. Um, so yeah, I will spend, I just take a night basically for each team and dive into the roster and look through who's on the page and what I can find about them. And as we mentioned, it's getting harder and harder because I have to like Google, name plus basketball or figure out like where they're coming from.
yeah,
And especially with the JUCO kids, it's really hard sometimes to figure out like how good are they? Although some of them come with quite the accolades, I will say. Some of the Green Bay guys in particular, have some accolades on their way. And I think, so I spend a night trying to do that and then set up an interview with coach. Have the interview with the coach. I usually get like half an hour to 45 minutes with them. They're pretty nice about their time, which is really appreciate it. And, and then I take like, I don't know, a couple hours to write. I write pretty fast. So, but like, that's actually the easiest part is once you have the interview and all the notes, like the writing part's the easy part. So, and then putting it all together is actually like another, couple nights, another week or so of time. Is figuring out like who to pick and who's on the all
sure.
conference team. And I also have to do like best front courts and back courts and things like that. Takes quite a bit of time.
Yeah.
And I would have to imagine, every person's a little bit different, a little bit, some are more charismatic, some are less charismatic. I mean, some of these guys are probably trying to sell you pretty hard on certain things. So, you got to sort through that a little bit and, figure if that, weighs into, am I being sold a bill of goods here, or is, Joe Schmo from, XYZ state really going to be a 18-8 guy in this league?
Yeah, for sure. I think that is definitely happening, and coaches have guys they want to motivate, and coaches, like when this comes out, they want to be able to point and say, "Let's see what John Templon wrote about you in this preview," right? Like,
Yep.
so I definitely think there's that, and you got to read a little bit through the lines. Luckily, this is third year doing it, and I've known some of the coaches for before that, and so you had Indy on earlier, I think, right?
Yes. Yes, we did.
Yes. I picked Andy like eighth last year. I feel bad about it because obviously that was very wrong.
I think that's
And
kind of where we had him.
as I did it, I was like, there's a lot of resources coming into this program this year. Maybe I shouldn't pick them here. But yeah, I think it's interesting to get their opinions, and yeah, I feel like I at least have a feel from talking to the Kaufmans and Campies and Fools for multiple years in a row now. Um,
Sure.
I really enjoy talking to Doug Gottlieb. He's a great storyteller. He knows so much
Oh
about
yeah.
basketball. It's fascinating to talk to him and get his opinions on things. And yeah,
He's not short of opinions, that's for sure.
no,
No.
definitely
He's
not.
got plenty of them.
No.
No. All right. Well, John.
Hey, I have a question for you, John. Like, yes, oh, I'll just ask one last question if we could.
Sure. Sure.
Is that all right?
Yeah. Go ahead.
So, John, when you look at like you talked about Robert Morris last year, I believe they hosted a home tournament, which is usually a pretty good sign to me of a team that's like trying to build some confidence and get some wins.
Mhm.
Do you like factor some of the non-conference scheduling into like when you look at what's coming out and saying, hey, this is a team that's either got some resources behind it or they've got, they're going to be stacking some W's versus a team that might be limping in with 5 or 6 or 7 non-conference losses, and how do they overcome that? Is that any part of your consideration as well? Or is that, are these almost like, winter and summer, they're two separate things?
Uh, I think a little bit. I mean, I think when I saw that, I really thought that what Robert Morris was trying to do last year was stack wins. I didn't like. I thought they were trying to like make themselves look good for the CBI, not win the league, you know. So I was impressed when they went out and won. And they brought in some really talented players, and it'll be interesting to see. I think like the schedule is much harder for Robert Morris this year.
Yeah,
It's also, there are some teams that like if you are in a certain level, you can't always get the hard games because teams don't want to play you for scheduling reasons, and so
sure.
you got to consider that as well. I think that's not a problem for RMU this year. They're going to have to play a very hard schedule, including playing Alvaro in their first game. So it'll be
Yeah.
that'll be a fun storyline.
I didn't get a chance to ask Andy about that.
But yeah, I think I think sometimes the schedule tells you something, and but sometimes you read it wrong, even though that's the case.
Hmm.
And a few of the schools, at this level, have to take certain games in order to make budgets work too. So I think
Sure.
there's some of that
Absolutely.
as well.
All right. Well, John, I really appreciate you coming on. When is Blue Ribbon coming out this year? Any idea?
I know that the book is at the printer, so
Ah,
soon I would think.
nice.
Yeah, hopefully.
Better get your
And
pre-orders in.
wait, can I ask who do you guys have as player of the year?
I got Orlando Lovejoy.
Jim, have you thought about it?
Honestly, I have not thought too much about this stuff, but that's coming from I'm coming from a deep, dark place in 4 of the last 5 seasons of my college basketball passion. I actually just took the summer off of all this stuff. I mean, I'm still active in social media, but I'm not living and dying on it right now. And I thought, you know what, when October swings around and things get going before the conference awards come out, I'll have my thoughts better. But like right now, I just needed to be like, you know what, Horizon League basketball, you can go sit on the back burner for a hot minute here because I've been in a dark.
Could
I'm in
you
a
take
dark
five
place.
minutes? You do need to take 5 minutes to vote in our preseason poll, Jim. Don't forget that part.
I'll get that done. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I have a lot. I got a lot of notes, but I watch so much video on all these players that come in. It's like, sometimes I think I should be figuring out how to monetize what I'm doing because I'm spending a ridiculous amount of time. And then, to your point, John, it's really hard to know. Like, I'm looking at very niche, average fan things to say like, okay, is that going to be a guy I think that stands out or not? Like when you talk about Green Bay has some guys with JUCO All-American awards. I actually really like LeBron Thomas. I'm not sure Green Bay is going to win enough games for him to be a first team all-conference player, but I think he's going to be Green Bay's best player. Well, until they got this random guy the other day, that's probably pretty good too. This Slovenian guy that they just got out of nowhere. That guy looks good too to me. So I'm not really sure, but I'll be ready to go by the time we need it in a month's time. Don't worry, Bob.
I think
Thank you.
LeBron Thomas is going to be really good. So yeah, I have Baru as my player of the year right now. So yeah, I'm interested to see how things go. Yeah.
I will say this. I don't think you're alone in that assessment. I feel like at least one or two of our. I feel like there's going to be at least one or two staff votes on our side for him.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Well, thanks,
all right.
guys.
Thanks for coming, and you have a good night.
Thanks
you
so much,
too.
John. Have a good night.
Bye.
And that's it, man. We made it to 2 hours. I'm impressed. I thought we were gonna like run out of gas and say we ran out of gas last year, and now we're actually running over. So for all of you actually still listen, there are still people watching right now. Thank you guys for joining us. Thanks for coming in, and thanks for jumping on the chat. So what was it? Next Sunday is Horizon Boy. We're gonna have Horizon Boy on, and then
This Sunday,
this Sunday
the
we're having
7th.
Horizon Boy.
Yeah,
Correct.
it's like,
And then next week we're gonna the week after we're gonna have
Tristan Freeman.
And then this one is the Kiefer Sykes interview. It's gonna drop on the 21st. I'm looking forward to talking to Kiefer Sykes because he's like one of my 2 guys that I absolutely positively have wanted to get on this podcast since the beginning of time. Kiefer Sykes is one of them. Norris Cole's the other one, and I haven't got. I'm one of 2 at least. Only took me 10 years, but
hey, once Kiefer does it, Norris is gonna be like, I gotta keep up. It's just as simple as that.
I know. So yeah, so peer pressure doesn't hurt anybody. So until then, HoriZonRoundtable.com. That's where all our articles and podcast episodes are on. become a patron because we're still doing our off-season features. Got a couple more left. $1 a month, guys. Patreon.com/HoriZone Roundtable.
And I just want to
Yes.
go note on the Patreon, like for anybody that's out there looking at this stuff, this is kind of a silly thing to say, but I want to point it out. Like, this is something that, like, being so fortunate enough to be part of the podcast now, I don't do this for any money. I don't get paid any money for this. That Patreon money is going to support all the people that provide awesome coverage of this league. And I didn't realize until I joined the Slack channel and started seeing the things that the people
My
who cover this.
apologies, by the way.
Yeah, it's a little much when I'm at work, but I will tell you, the people who are covering this league are so passionate and so in depth and so knowledgeable about it. The money that is raised through that Patreon is all about supporting that hard work and their knowledge. And so I think it's important for people to know, if you're out there and you're like, hey, I would have done it, but Jim Serro's a jerk and I don't want him to get any money. Don't worry, I'm not. So this is all about those hardworking people that are covering the league at like just a really detailed level. So please join and support if you can.
I'd also like to point out the fact that all the money that I get nothing. I pass it on to our writers. I get nothing. And so yeah, patreon.com/HoriZone Roundtable. And if you want to donate, you can do that to HoriZonRoundtable.com/donate. By the way, if 50, I'm still on the tote bag thing. If $50 donation or more, you get a HoriZone Roundtable tote bag. So yeah, that's gonna wrap it up. So thank you guys for joining us, and we look forward to thanks for watching, and we look forward to you listening to next episode with Horizon Boy. So